back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
I'm Jessica Faust.
So we got a viewer question. I think you got the viewer question. A viewer reached out and asked whether we think genres are limiting. What do you think? Are genres limiting to the writer and the querier?
Well, I mean, I think they're only as limiting as you let them be. I mean, go on.
Yeah, I they're like sort of a necessary evil, but there's so much room with them, right?
Well, listen, genres have sort of guidelines. I don't want to say like a formula because I find that I think formula sort
Expectations, maybe.
Yeah, expectations is good. And I do think sort of certain like sort of unwritten rules. I mean, for example, in romance, your readers are going to expect you're going to need to have a happily ever after. That's what defines the genre of romance.
Right.
But how are you limited otherwise? Only by your own imagination, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think that the idea of a heroine falling in love with her rapist went out of style, thank goodness. So you might be limited by today's norms.
I'm sorry that was ever in style.
It was a thing in like the 70s, probably early romance. It was a trope.
Oh, that's gross. Anyway.
But yeah, it was gross. But I think in obviously in mysteries, dead bodies is a good idea.
Right. A crime of some sort if you don't want a dead body, but
yeah, I mean, you need a crime.
Mostly.
Yeah, gotta have that. There are sort of guidelines word count wise, which we have definitely discussed in not just other videos, but in the blog. So if you want to know the guidelines of the genre you're writing in, word count guidelines, we have done a lot on that. So definitely check those out.
Right.
So if you're going to write genre fiction, yes, you have to write to the audience expectations. I think you stated it perfectly, that it's expectations.
Right.
And that there are certain things that, certain rules you need to follow in that. But how else are you limited? I don't know that you are. I mean, look, there's been paranormal romance and werewolves and historicals, and there's sweet and there's sexy and there's erotic. I mean, is there an area that romance hasn't done that in some way or another? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's about understanding what a reader is going to expect and then playing with that expectation, right? So you can challenge them always. Readers will love that, but you don't want to go so far out of a challenge that it's unrecognizable.
Right.
To the genre specifically, not, like, again, you can challenge and play with that and do things that are different. That's not what we're saying, but you still want to be recognizable to that genre's reader.
I think the author who struggles to feel trapped in and hemmed in by a genre is somebody who doesn't understand the genre. If you're hearing from other people, well, you can't do that in romance, and you can't do that in romance, and you can't do that in romance, and you're listening to all of those, my thought is that you are not reading enough romance and understanding. And I'm not just talking reading. When you're an author, and I've said this before, you can't just read a book. You need to learn how to also tear it apart. I mean,
the thing about reading a book as an author is that you're reading for enjoyment, sure, but you're also reading to grow your craft. So even if you hate that book, somebody loved that book enough to publish it, enough to slap a cover on it, put it on the shelves, and people are now buying it. So you want to be able to understand what about this worked for this readership, and what about it is making it a successful book in that it's on the shelf.
Yep, absolutely. And so I think that if you're feeling confined by a genre, you probably don't know it well enough, and it's probably not the right genre for you.
Yeah.
And I also will remind viewers of something I've said in the past. The authors on my list who have been the most successful in their given genre are those who knew how to push the limits.
To expand that genre, yeah.
They understood their genre and they took it to a next and different level. Those who feel that the genre is a box and they need to be in that box
haven't read enough.
And they might be published.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying they might, but they might not have a career. They might get 3 books published, 4 books published, 5 books published, but I will guarantee that's not the author who has sustained a 20, 25, 30-year career writing because every book was in a box.
Well, just to drive the point home too, like if you have read enough in a genre, then you know what has been done and what can be done. Even if it hasn't been done yet, there are like, it's like incremental, right? Like you've seen the groundwork for something that can be done in the genre.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like having read in a group of books, you will know what you can sort of get away with. So the people that are telling you that can't be done, they wouldn't really matter because you would know it can be done.
It can be done. And a lot of it is like, well, is it that it can't be done or that you're not doing it in a way that's working?
Ah, yes, that's a good point.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was saying, or they've just never seen it done, but we were going in 2 different directions. But you're right. We're both right, but you're right.
Of course we are.
Yeah. No, but that's a really good point. Like, is it that it can't be done or is that it's not working? And I use this quote on the channel all the time. Neil Gaiman said, if somebody tells you what to fix in your book, they're dead wrong. But if somebody tells you something's not working in your book, you should listen to them.
Yep.
So if they're telling you it can't be done, it can't be done. Maybe it's not that what you're doing, it can't be done. It's just that what you're doing is not really working.
Yeah, I actually would agree with that 100%. And I think the thing too is to understand. So genres cross over all the time.
Yeah.
There is, well, I mean, every genre, almost every book in some way, shape, or form have romance in it.
Right.
Not every romance in every book is a happily ever after. So just because you have a romance in your book doesn't make it a romance. A book focused on getting to the happily ever after is a romance.
Yeah.
So
like what you're saying too, now if you tried to write a romance book and publish and a reader picked up a romance book and there was no happily ever after at the end, you've upset your reader. And I think like a good example, a polarizing book is Tana French's In the Woods. And so many people that I love that book and so many people that I've talked to, like they didn't solve the biggest mystery in the book. And it really upsets the readers because they're expecting that mystery presented in the first 3 chapters to be solved. And while there were 2 mysteries and one was, the other sort of left that reader wanting more. Right. So Tana French understands the genre of mystery.
Because she had a crime and she solved it.
Right. And she solved that one mystery that was really the main mystery of the book, but she pushed the limit. Mm-hmm. And it still upsets readers. So like just a matter of understanding what can happen.
Well, and you see it in a lot of series too, mystery series especially will have the mystery of that book. And then they might have an additional continuing mystery or a continuing storyline at some point, like it could be a romance, but a lot of times it could be a continuing mystery that is solved over the course of multiple books. And
I will tell you, every Tana French reader is waiting for that mystery in the Woods to be solved still. So
brilliant on her part.
Yes, I agree, but not everybody does. So you have to understand like what your reader is going to expect from your book and how can you then play with it to challenge it. But yeah, I don't want to say you have to know the rules to break the rules because like who makes the rules is a bigger question there. But I think
we go back to your word of expectations.
Right. You have to know the
what the readers expect.
Yeah.
And then know how you can elevate that.
Yeah. So our genre is limiting only in so much as you might not know what exactly the genre can do and you might be limiting yourself.
In my experience, authors limit their imaginations for reasons outside because they think far more than the genre itself would limit them. I think at the end of the day, what we're saying to people is don't let others limit you.
Yes, write your story as your story needs to be written.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, thanks for watching if you made it this far. Well, yeah. Yep. Okay. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.